Hello, welcome to another tutorial for this landscape watercoloring book. This tutorial is going to be so fun. We're going to do a lot of wet on wet techniques using this round tip brush. So let's get going. All right, the first step for this is super easy. You're just going to be putting wet, clean water all on the background of the image. So I'm going to place the original picture my husband took while we were in Hawaii up so you can kind of compare and see where we're going with this. As you can see on this image, the background is blurred. This is the shallow depth of field, I think, is what it's called. I'm not a photographer, but I appreciate it. So, we're going to make the background very loose, and how we're going to do that is by adding the water. So, let's put that on and then meet back up to mix some colors. All right, now we can grab some blue, some green, and then here in a minute we'll mix some browns. So we have a sky blue. There's not a whole lot of blue in the sky, but we're going to be kind of adding it in where we want to. And a vibrant green for that lower area where the grass is. So now that it's still wet, we're just going to be dropping it in where that horizon line is. And you see how muted it is? There is a lot of water, so it's not super vibrant. We can add color later, but this is how I want it for now. We're adding in our brown. And you just kind of do randomly where you see those trees in the picture. Just a loose, you don't have to have it straight up and down. It actually is preferred that you kind of have some organic look to the trees. Now we're dabbing in some of the greenery on the trees. And I am starting with that lighter green, and then we'll come in and add a little bit more color. This is just our base layer. Really, you're not trying to make it look like trees or anything. You're just filling in those shapes. So you see where the bunches of green is, and you just fill it in. And you see I'm kind of using a dabbing method. That kind of gives the water the control that it wants to just make things more organic shapes. Okay, we're getting some more vibrant green and coming into the top of the horizon line. Because you can see in the picture that top area is a little bit darker. We're going to bring the vibrant down, and I'm using horizontal strokes, bringing in some more of like a yellow green. It's coming together. So as you can see, I'm just kind of building color on top of what I have. So now I have that more like yellowy green, putting in those areas. And with watercolor, we work lights to darks. So if this is more vibrant than you want, don't worry. We can bring it down. We'll have more browns. See how I'm adding in a little bit more brown? It's still very loose. Okay, now we are going to mix a darker green and come in there with the tree leaves. This is more of like a blue green. If you want more foresty, just add a little bit of red or purple into your green and that will neutralize it. But I really like these colors that are mixing together. I'm kind of just going over top the color that I already made, not covering everything, but kind of adding it in together. It's already looking so pretty. So now I'm kind of just blending areas that are a little bit more like strict lines than I would want. If you are getting puddles, you can grab a paper towel and just kind of dab off the puddles and then start over. So I'm just using a clean brush and going over the areas, kind of blending it all together. You're not like washing a brush across the whole thing. You're working in small sections so that you don't blend and just make it all muddy mess. Like you want to have some fun texture to this. Zoom in here so you can see I have that distinct line around that top rock and I just cleaned my brush off and I'm just letting it blend that together. Not adding any color, but look how much that just made things a lot softer. So now that we have that, we're going to mix a gray and get into our rocks. I'll move this reference up to the top corner so you can see all the detail. We're actually going to kind of fill in where the greenery is on the rock first because as we talked about, we work lights to darks. So here we go. I did add a little bit of yellow to make that green more vibrant, but I kind of put an outline of where that greenery is going to be, and you're just going to dab little dots, holding your brush vertically And you're just kind of filling it in. You can leave some white space and that will be so pretty. Don't worry if this doesn't have all the vibes that you're wanting just yet. Like, we are going to add layers. This rock is multiple layers of wet on wet technique, and then we'll dry and then add more. So this is just our first layer. I'm going to mix some brown and kind of just dab it into the corner of the page. As you can see on the reference image, there is some like shadowing and a little bit of brown in this greenery. So this is a little more dark than I want, so I'm just going to dab it off with my paper towel and then come back in and kind of just blend the green with the brown in some of the areas. More diluted. I love all the colors coming out. So you're just gonna fill this whole area and then we're gonna move down into the area on the bottom of the page around the leaves. Kind of just like dropping in color where you see fit. But remember, we work lights to darks. Once you have that first layer of the greenery done, now you can add in your darker shades of green and kind of just like add layering so that you can create some of that dimension. You can already see that you're seeing more detail up front. The colors are more vibrant, there's more detail. I'm just coming in and doing random dots of this darker green. And then we're going to give that green a break and spread gray throughout the entire surface. The top is going to be a little bit darker because the base layer is darker. That top rock is pretty shaded. So as I go down, I'm adding a little bit more water so that that lower rock, that base layer, is really diluted gray. You can leave some random white space like you see I'm doing, but I'm really kind of just filling in the whole space except for those leaves. Leave the leaves untouched. You're going to want to be careful as you're painting around the green because there's a good chance it's not dry yet. So just be careful to leave a tiny bit of white in between, otherwise you're going to have that green blending into your rock, and you do want a little bit of contrast there. So just do your best to kind of fill in. If you get in the leaves, it's totally fine. Try your best not to, but don't stress. Like if it gets in there, you can dab it out, or we are building on top of it. So we'll just put green over top and red over top and it will be perfect. Okay, so we're kind of just filling in the entire thing all the way to the top, and then we'll come back in with our darker gray, black, and do the next layer of shading. Starting on this top rock, you see the outlines that I've made, and it kind of helps for you to know where your darkest parts of that rock will be. And I'm doing the same type of texture as I did the greens because this is lava rock. We're in Hawaii, so there's a lot of texture to these rocks. So I have my dark, almost black. I mixed a little bit of brown in there with it. And I'm just kind of bringing it down. And my first layer will be kind of loose and then we'll dab the colors. but I'm just following the outline that I already made. Perfect. And then come in, the darkest part is going to be underneath this rock where it stacks with the other. Bringing in some more color. You guys, painting, these have been so therapeutic for me. I have my own little painting playlist that I listen to, which I'm so bummed that I can't just leave on the video because of copyright details, but if you ever want to know what I listen to, you can just like play it in the background while you listen to these videos. Okay, so I dropped some brown in, and then this is when you can kind of like same thing as what we did with the sky, where I'm just kind of like using a clean brush and blending those together in small areas. You're not wiping through the whole thing. You're kind of just like picking up the colors where you want to. But you can already see the texture coming through because you have that light gray that's popping through where you let it, and then the mixture of the blacks and the browns and the darker gray. I'm mixing some brown just on the side of my palette that I can easily drop in as I'm going to kind of bring those grays alive. So I'm kind of just coming in where you see on the picture and roughly putting the colors that I see on that image, which is a lighter gray. It's not as dark as that top rock. Kind of pulling that color down. If you see it puddling, just use your brush and dab it onto your paper towel. It's okay if it's kind of the similar shade because we can always go a little darker up top, which I think is what I'll end up doing. But I'm just kind of dabbing, and same thing, leaving those spaces for that first layer of gray to pop through because that's what creates that texture. The sun is shining really good on that right side of the rock, so I'm leaving a good part of it kind of untouched for a minute. Okay, and this is where I'm kind of smoothing it out like we did over there, so there's not that harsh line. There we go. All right, so the rest of this is kind of the exact same technique over and over. You do your base layer, and then you come in with your darker colors. You see how I'm bringing that darker color right around that greenery, just like the picture. And it's okay if it blends a little bit. Coming in there. Really pretty. Creating that contrast between the rock and the leaves or the moss. But I'm going to kind of let you go. You can watch me, but we'll come back together as we put the next layer of contrast on. All right, so now that we're about done with this, we're gonna mix a dark, like black, and we're gonna come in and put even more contrast. Here we go. So I'm putting some dark around and I'm kind of dabbing. Same thing. Every layer, I'm leaving space for the layer before it to show through. Going around the greenery, then coming up here by the top rock. As you see, I haven't really started the stack of rocks. Oh, my friend would be so mad that I don't know what it's called. Oh, please, someone say in the comments what that stack of rock is called. I think it's like a memorial of the people that have been there before. I don't, oh, don't quote me on that. But I'm leaving that. And once you're comfortable with how this like lava rock looks, then we can use those exact techniques and stack it up there. But we're kind of just adding in some more detail. Okay. You can dab off any of like the wet areas or too dark. But I actually really love how this looks so far. So we're gonna start on the rocks now. And you know what you're doing. Trust in your process. And I'm kind of just gonna like paint along with you. And then we'll come back together for the finishing touches of this painting. It's videos like this that make me want to do live tutorials because I just want to talk to my friends. So maybe one of my next tutorials will be a live one and we can all paint together. But as you can see, I'm kind of just doing the shading areas just like we did in the beginning of the other side. So following the outline pretty well, and then we'll come in with some more color in a minute. If you're watching this and you've made it 23 minutes in, I would love to know how you've enjoyed the video. Uh, Leave a comment. Tell me how you like this tutorial, if it's one of your favorites, if you like the other ones better, or maybe just tell me something happy that happened this week. Um, yeah, I just want to be friends. So, um, as you can see, I'm adding in some brown and a little bit of green to this middle rock. Okay, so with these rocks, as you can see, I'm leaving some space for that base layer to show through. And if I'm being honest, I am not being super random. I'm being pretty um deliberate. Is that the right word? I'm adding in some contrast here on the bottom, but this is what shows the depth, the detail is where those bright colors or those lighter colors show through. And in these rocks, it kind of shows through on the corners. That's what shows that the sun is hitting it and just looks so pretty. So as you can see, as we keep going, you'll be able to tell kind of where I'm putting it. So if it's easier, watch me for a minute, see what to do, and then go back. Like you don't have to follow along exactly. All right, now it's time to mix our brown and start just using the very tip of our brush and do those stems. Bring them all up around. Make sure that your rock is dry because you're going to kind of be going over the paint. So if it's not dry, hold off. Go get a snack, do something fun, come back and do those stems. This step is what's really going to start bringing everything together. It's going to show some detail and some contrast and some a little pop of color. I'm so excited. So, if you are a little bit nervous about these really small lines, you can practice on like the side of your page or if you have a scratch piece, like you can practice this movement before touching your final piece. But really, the technique is just using very light pressure. Oh, it's so pretty. I hope you're proud. I say this every video, but I really just truly hope you're proud of what you're making because watercolor is kind of hard and it's a learning curve and you're doing great. And even if it doesn't look how you wanted, you're doing it. We're having fun. So once you have all the stems, we're going to move on to the leaves. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little palette that my friend gave me. Her name's Nancy. She makes her own pigments, which I think is so cool. I think her company is called Brighter Day Pigments. I will warn you, they are an investment, but they are great colors. So, um, I'm going to use that for these greens, the little leaves, and then we'll come in with the brown. Okay, my leaves have a little bit of red in them. So if you don't want that, just keep it the same brown that you have been using. Just dilute it down a little and kind of fill in some of those little leaves to go with. And there's some like little detail of the sticks with the little balls on them. You can make that a little bit of the same color and just do like some dabs. Okay, we are on to our finishing touches, which basically just means we're putting in some last minute detail and then we're done. It looks so beautiful. Okay, so I'm just kind of adding in where I have noticed I've missed. So down here on the bottom part of the lava rock, I'm kind of blending that area in, bringing it into all flow together nicely. And then let's grab our darker green or just a different shade of green, and I'm dabbing in some detail in the greenery. So literally just making little leaves that go all over. If you're noticing any areas in your background that you're like, oh, I want some more contrast, you can do that right now. So I'm just bringing, like, I want a little bit more of a contrast between the rock and the greenery or in the background. So I'm grabbing some green and I'm like kind of just almost making like tree trunks and I'm bringing it along the edge and then doing the same thing where I just use a wet brush and I kind of mix it all together and make sure that there's no stark lines. Like you want it to blend together really well. But friends, we are done. Like once you feel good and you're done with those finishing touches, I really hope you're proud of it. Like this looks so pretty. You did something hard today, and I'm excited to paint with you again. So definitely leave any comments if you have questions or if you just want to tell me how your experience was. But yeah, obviously subscribe, um, like this video, anything helps truly. So thank you for being here and I'm excited to paint with you next time.